welcome to episode 1 of the Matlock podcast, pilot.
In this week's episode, Madeline Matlock wins a job at Jacobson Moore and is assigned to a pro bono case involving a man who spent decades in prison for a crime he didn't commit. With the claims' value diminishing as the trial approaches, can Madeline find the crucial piece of evidence to turn the tide in her client's favour? Or will her unusual approach only alienate her new colleagues?
Madeline Matlock, like the TV show.
What TV show?
Exactly.
Good evening, Iain.
Brand new experiment.
A new project, yes. We should say up front that if you've not watched the show yet, this is not a reboot or even a reimagining. It's
a tangentially, one of those two, connected. There's some.
Well, it's not even connected.
It's also about the law and a person called Matlock.
Yeah. It references the show. So in this universe, Matlock is a TV show.
It's an interesting decision in terms of how to use the IP.
I think it's very original, yes.
I think for a pilot like this, you're looking for certain things, aren't you?
Well, you're looking to be introduced to the primary characters, their personalities, their motivations, and I think that we certainly are.
Yeah, well, the two things that I thought were engaging characters and a compelling context for them to exist in.
Yeah.
So we can maybe look at that as we go through, but I think we'll probably find this does quite well.
Without wanting to spoil it, yeah, I think we both really enjoyed the opening episode, and
absolutely,
it should be good podcast fodder.
And given the big names in the cast, it's some high expectations for most people, I think, going into it.
Not just big names, but talented names as well.
People who don't put their name to bad projects that often.
Yeah, you can see why it was greenlit after this episode.
For sure. Should we talk about social media and things like that in terms of this podcast?
Well, it's become a bit of a habit for you, so...
A tradition, you might say. We're going back to our roots here. We're just going to be at Colombo Podcast on X, on Blue Sky, on Facebook, technically on Instagram.
Snapchat?
No, stop it. The show will be at colombopodcast.com, but as with our recent shows 1 week early on our YouTube channel, Colombo Podcast Productions, you're able to leave comments and ratings and reviews there, but also Apple Podcasts, Spotify, IMDb. Everything is available on all of those platforms, and we appreciate it if you can leave good reviews.
And get in touch, yeah, chat to us.
Yeah, speak to us. We will speak back, and especially if we're focusing on this one channel now, things should be easier for the immediate future.
A bit more streamlined.
Do we have a good segue yet for this show?
Nah, just let's crack on. Where do we open up?
We're in line at a Starbucks-esque coffee shop in downtown New York. Presumably Manhattan, I think.
I think that's where it's meant to be, but we'll get to that. It's not, obviously.
Okay.
As is in most cases. We have dramatic driving music as we see a very handsome but obnoxious. It's almost an 80s yuppie Gordon Gekko cliche here.
Yes.
Businessman, he's talking loudly on his phone about some important deal that has a limit of 23 million, but he thinks he can do it for 19.
We get the clear impression that he is a busy and important man in a hurry.
And probably a bit of an ass.
Almost certainly, unless you like that sort of thing.
At the same time, we hear and then see an older woman who we find out...
That's the phrase that I used as well. That's pretty safe, I think, isn't it?
Yeah. We find out this is Maddie.
Matty.
Well, is it Matty? Is it Matty or Matt?
I'm pretty certain it's Matty.
It's Madeline.
I know, but they use Matty in the descriptions that they produce themselves for the episodes, and also at the end of the episode, the grandson says Matlock fits with Matty. But really? I'm not sure where Matty originally comes from. Maybe that's what we're going to find out.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure it is Matty.
All my notes have got Maddie here. I'm going to call her Maddie.
You're just going to change it?
Yes.
You're going to pull folk in from the Jonathan Creek podcast?
Madeline Matlock. I'm not quite... Yes. Maybe I'll change it in another episode, but I'm Maddie. Maddie.
This is like when you called Dr. McCoy Mac for 3 seasons.
My notes were always Mac, and I had to the amount of times I had to stop and redo it to McCoy. Okay, anyway, so we see this older woman. She fumbles with modern technology payment methods, which causes the obnoxious chap to pay for a drink to speed things up.
So he's a good guy.
Well, is he? Or is he just so busy and it's like money's
he's so rich it doesn't matter.
Yes, here, have that, yeah, that $8 or whatever it is.
This allows him to leave, but as you say, before he goes, we hear him talking about this 23 rather than 19. We don't know what these numbers refer to at this point.
Maddie then tells the barista that it was a nice gesture as the show motif kicks in while she pockets a handful of sugars beside the butterscotch sweets candy.
I think she's a bit more ambiguous than that. She says that was a nice way to start the day.
Okay.
Rather than referring explicitly to what he did, because she's thinking about what he said.
Yes, we'll get to that, yeah.
Yeah. She tells the barista that people are saying the world has gone to poop. But that's not the case. And then, as you say, she snaffles some free sugar.
And we see these sort of butterscotch, almost
granny sweets.
Withers Originals, yeah, which I think is shorthand for old person.
Of course it is, although I quite enjoy them.
So do I. Out in the street, we catch up with her walking down Fifth Avenue as a simple and modern Matlock logo is displayed on the screen.
Did you like the camera angle for this?
I liked all the photography. I don't think in my notes actually I've got for this episode the photographer, but it was very well shot. I like the colorization.
There were some good stylistic decisions, I think, especially with the cuts. There was a lot of the pace of the show was late. Well, I've got notes on this later on, but a lot of the time that the pace was driven by the way that they were cutting and how they did it.
For sure. She arrives at 450 Fifth Avenue and enters a very impressive building.
It's a very large lobby.
Yes. She's fumbling with her coffee and her candy, which allows someone to perform a second kind gesture of the day towards her by tapping her through security with their key card.
Yes. She offers this younger woman one of her butterscotch sweets, and it's accepted. The young woman noting that her grandmother loves these.
Yeah, I think she says that once you hit 65, it's compulsory to carry them.
Yeah, it's biological. You resist as long as you can, and then you find yourself in the middle of Costco, one of your favourite haunts, with a £4 bag.
The young woman again helps her by using her pass and pressing the button for the 21st floor, as Maddie insightfully notes that in life, people often become exactly who they expect them to be.
She keeps making this point. She'll make this point in more explicit terms later on. I'm not sure it's really... the things that happen to her in this episode don't really bear out what she's saying.
Really?
Because she's saying, I don't get noticed. I just exist in the background, essentially. But there's folk buying her coffee and buzzing her through gates because they notice her.
Yes, but she doesn't mean like she's not physically noticed. They mean
she's not suspected, or
she's well, exactly what she says.
It's under the radar.
People assume that she is who she appears to be.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
She gets off at her floor, I think it's the 21st, with her phone to her ear and asks a slightly perplexed receptionist called Christine. I'm not sure how she knows her name, although maybe to do with some prior research.
Well, she's certainly done some recce before, because she's got a map of this office that she's now entered. Yeah,
so Christine buzzes her through another security gate or door, and when she turns the corner, she immediately ditches her coffee and pulls out this hand-drawn map, as it is confirmed that she should not necessarily be where she is.
Quite obviously not.
Yeah. Was this the point where you realised, did you work out before that she was chancing it, or did you think maybe she was just quite daughtery and...
No, I think I knew the concept before I watched it, so I suspected this. But I think watching it fresh without any preconceived notions, it's going to be either the third time somebody helps her do something, or it's going to be when she looks at the map if you're really slow of deduction.
Yeah. In any case, she follows several other people into a large meeting room and listens while the chair of the meeting, I think his name is Elijah
Walker. Yeah, this is a partners meeting.
Yeah, he starts by having a playful jibe at his colleague Julian over the Met score, and then proceeds to boast about his recently acquired equity stake in the partnership and his increased salary. That is a dickish move, I would say.
But it doesn't seem to be out of setting, if that makes sense.
No, so perhaps that's what they do. These New York high-flying lawyers, none of them are poor, so they're all just...
There's very few nice lawyers in the world.
It's a little bit like American Psycho, isn't it? You've seen American Psycho?
I have seen American Psycho.
Boasting about the embossed business cards, and everything has to be a little bit better than everyone else. Exactly. Although it's strange for, I suppose, in 2024... these guys do have the feeling of the 80s yuppies.
Yes.
Which is, maybe that's how it still is.
I'm sure we'll learn more about all of these people.
Oh, hopefully.
Elijah, at this point, addresses a female lawyer called Olympia.
Yeah, to ask about the $2 million settlement that she rejected in the Harris case, which is not enough, and reminds her that it cannot go to court the next day.
We don't really find out why it cannot go to court the next day, because if you're getting offered $2 million, clearly there's some assumption that you have a strong case.
Well, it all depends, but $2 million might be very low for what the compensation is for.
Well, potentially, but it's the fact that he's so adamant you cannot go to trial.
Well, this is because, is it not, this is a pro bono, and if it went to trial, it would cost an awful lot.
This is, from the company's point of view, this is the point I'm trying to get to, is they don't like this case. They don't want this case, and it's this one lawyer who is driving it.
So we are meant to believe that she is an ethical and moral person doing it for a good cause?
Well, it's not made clear in this scene, I don't think, but yes.
She assures him that it won't go to court, but she will get a minimum of $4 million for Harris, who was apparently wrongly convicted and served 26 years, and she will get up to $20 million if she can prove that there was police corruption.
Yeah, it's the day before the trial and she hasn't done it yet. It seems unlikely that she's going to be able to.
Yeah, it's like leaving your studying into the night before an important exam.
And even then, it's different with court because there's deadlines for lodging evidence and agreeing evidence and stuff like that. It's not like you can just show up with a surprise.
Yeah, I don't think it's good practice to still be very positive with hours to go.
And this is what one of the other partners suggests. It's unlikely, given that she spent 6 months looking for this evidence, that she's going to find it. I think Julian
yes. And you can see, I think there's a bit of, I wouldn't say animosity, but there's a bit of tension between Julian and Olympia.
I said rivalry, but it's certainly some kind of needle.
Yeah. But what's her defence?
She says she's not been allocated sufficient resources and that the 2 junior associates that she has been given are so young that they are equivalent to 1 mediocre associate.
And as I say, there's clearly this tension, but Olympia tries to be positive to end the back and forth by telling Elijah that she might have a new lead and starts to talk about the sketch of a prostitute. But she's cut down by her boss, who tells her that it's over and to make sure the case is closed. So he's not interested in developments.
He's speaking for the firm here,
Yeah, get a settlement, agree to it, and put this one to bed.
Red line underneath or black line underneath it. The next conversation is between Julian and Elijah about a claim against a company called Peabody.
Yes, where he smugly, this is Julian,
from his smug face,
announces that he's got a $19 million deal, which everyone nods approvingly at, with the exception of the stranger, who thinks that he could have done better.
Who are you?
I'm sorry. I got a little ahead of myself in my excitement. I'm Maddie, informally. Formerly Madeline Matlock. Yes, Matlock, like the old TV show, which was all I heard between 1984 and 1992. You're a lawyer like Matlock. You're a lawyer like Matlock. And every time I'd correct him, he's just pretending. I'm a real lawyer. But, you can only protest so much before you sound like you got a big old pole up your hiney. So I just let him have it. And I just said, I'm a lawyer just like Matlock.
A lawyer working for?
You, hopefully. You have an associate position open, and it's been really hard to get an interview. And I almost think it's because of my age, but that'd be violating discriminatory protections. The point is, I just had to figure out a way to break through the noise.
I think you definitely earned yourself an interview.
Well, thank you for that. But I don't want an interview. I want a job. And as a reminder, I do know the number that Peabody is willing to pay, and it is significantly higher than $19 million. Of course, I wouldn't overplay my hand with Peabody either. I always say negotiations are an art and a trap.
Let's avoid traps then. How do you know the number?
Well, you see, there's this funny thing that happens when women age. We become damn near invisible. Oh, not that I'm complaining. I had my moment in the sun. Plus, it's useful because nobody sees us coming. That's how I got through your security several times. And it's also how I knew that Peabody's counsel grabs coffee and updates his client between 8:15 and 8:25.
What's the number?
Am I hired?
No one is hired without a 2-week trial. What's their ceiling?
There's points to be made here.
Yes, obviously we're referring back to the
coffee shop.
Yes. She's basically playing her hand away or telling them what she's doing, but with reference to this other case.
Yes.
She's a double sort of double meaning here.
Yes, she's kind of hiding in plain sight to a certain extent. I think that the reaction of everybody else here is ridiculous.
Why?
Like in real life, it would just be, no, get her out. She's not speaking in our meet. She's not a partner. What's she doing here? Also, she says she knows a number.
Yes, of course, in real life. However, I'm not sure. In your average lawyer's office, where we're not talking about these amounts of money, then yes. But I think that if anyone could say, you know what, I can make you 4 million, then you might listen to them.
Well, maybe.
And these guys are mavericks. They're hot shots.
Yeah,
Don't play by the rules.
You say 4 million, so obviously, yes, like you say earlier on, we heard in the coffee shop 1923. It's 23 million is the number that she offers to this senior partner. I don't think he has a name, he just gets called senior in the credits.
He does. He's a famous face, but we can talk about that at some other point. The voice asking the question is, as you say, the boss of the entire firm. And after being pleased to hear that 23 million is what they can achieve, he still insists that she needs a 2-week trial.
Yeah, and there's also a bit here where she says she's made them 4 million, but surely she's made their client 4 million and they only get a percentage of that.
Yeah.
Not to be pernickety or anything.
So she accepts that she will have this trial, but effectively insists that it will begin that very day. There's a touch of the Mary Poppins about her. She's very forthright, and she says what she's going to do and then does it.
She's going for the sort of folksy charm a lot of the time. Sometimes the things that she says are quite stark. And right now...
they're very abrasive as well, but I think what we see as well is she's got fantastic people skills. She can read the room and read people. She knows what to say and when to say it. And right now, she knows that this is the type of language and the type of actions that will get her what she wants, because it appeals to them.
Yeah. At this point, she says that there's a time in life when you want to do what's right and a time when you want money, and she wants money. It doesn't really ring true, even when she's saying it.
No, well, she says she needs to make it rain and demands a case. And at this point, Julian, I think, trying to stir things up a little bit, reminds everyone that Olympia did request more resources.
Yes. So we then cut to a corridor with a visual that is repeated throughout the episode, and I think is brilliant, because you've got Madeline struggling to keep up with the pace of the younger people. This happens constantly, and it's one of the things, and I read some viewer reviews of this episode, and all the older people were saying this is what it's like in real life. People don't wait for it,
but not just physically, I suppose, as well. At this time, you're in your career, perhaps even in your mind is starting to slow down. Yes, it's showing this, but it's also showing that it's not always the case. And even though the body may be weaker in some cases, in some aspects of life, your experience or other sort of knowledge can win out over energy. Olympia is clearly not happy with the arrangement as Maddie tries to keep up with her striding away. And her mood is not improved when she finds out that she last practiced when?
1991. Olympia hasn't been convinced by any part of Madeline's presentation.
No, and she pleads to let her show that she can be useful and asks Olympia how she can do this. And after a beat and a semi-pitiful look, is told enigmatically what?
Get me all of Thanksgiving. What would your answer be if someone new came into your work and said, how can I impress you? Do you think it would be easy to answer?
No, it'd be almost illegal. I'd be thinking to myself, this is a trap. I better not say what I'm thinking. Anyway, and also, she says that at $1,200 an hour, she doesn't have the time to explain what that means. She'll have to
she suggests that Madeline clears it up with someone whose time she can afford.
Yeah, so she strides into her office where her 2 associates are waiting without news of the Harris deal. Yeah,
they look very, very young, but the actors, one of them's nearly 30 and one's nearly 40.
I don't think they look that young.
The girl in particular looked really, like she's dressed young, I thought.
I think she looks, mid-20s, which would be the right age if you've graduated.
Well, that would make sense, but Olympia also refers to them as very young.
I think it's just she means an experience, so effectively they're rookies, aren't they?
Well, apparently, but I think we're going to see a lot of them.
I liked the sort of the counterbalance in their attitudes and their personalities.
They bounce off one another quite sharply. Olympia tells them that the client is coming in and to bring the new lawyer with them and meet her in the conference room before disappearing off once again.
So confused they turn, and Madeline introduces herself, as we heard at the top of the podcast, to Billy, who seems to be quite pleasant, and Sarah, who seems less sympathetic and wants to be trained by I like this line, a senior partner rather than a senior citizen.
Yes. She then calls Madeline Perry Mason.
Yes, there's quite a few references to other shows here, which I liked, and it's obviously, again, highlighting their youth.
Yes.
Which is worrying, you know, that's like, the 80s, anyone young won't know any of these, these not 60s or 70s, but 80s references now are... You have to be old.
Yeah.
She storms off and leaves Billy with, as you say, Perry Mason, as he excuses her as a wildly ambitious, raging bitch when Madeline asks why she is so pissy. And I think so here's the thing. The original Matlock is in the same category as Murder, She Wrote.
Okay.
Very, very cosy. You would watch it with your grandmother. It could be on any time of day. You know,
this is not like that.
It's not. It's edgier. It's sharper. It's obviously I think it's sort of in the US. It's like a 14 and up, PG 14 or whatever.
Yeah.
So there are some words. There are some language and
Concepts. Yeah.
Concepts. It's not aimed at that. I think they're pitching it at the younger audience.
Yes.
Yeah. Not old,
younger, as in what, 20s, 30s.
Well, just younger as the type of people who would watch these
Not
sort
the
of crime
people who
shows.
are already Matlock fans.
No,
strangely.
Yes, I mean, I think they would. I don't know. Would they? See, Matlock fans who were old in the 80s will be dead by now.
But Matlock fans who were young in the 80s will be old by now.
Yeah, but I was a Matlock fan in the 80s. But I liked a lot of old
As
people.
a teenager.
Yeah. No, I wasn't a teenager in the 80s. No. I have to work that one out there. I'm getting
You're
old.
so old. Yeah.
But no, the point is that this is, like I say, it's a bit of an edgier show.
Fair.
Right.
Billy, at this point, says one of the other reasons that Sarah's so upset is that Olympia still calls them you two after working with them for 6 months, and that this is not exactly the A-team.
Yes, which is another old TV show that Madeline suggests the pair have also never heard of. Now, we may cover the A-team
on our new concept.
Some of these, in fact, all of the shows that get mentioned here are up for possible discussion in our new podcast.
Do continue to send in your suggestions to us for that one. We've got, I think, last count, well into 3 figures.
Yeah. To be fair, I'd never really considered the A-team as one that we would cover, but I suppose it's a sort of crime.
There's crime involved.
Crime involved, yes. And
against television.
And I think that this is the whole point of our new sort of concept, is it gives us the flexibility. We would never have covered it every
all
episode.
of it, yeah.
But you know what? We could dip in for a couple of episodes.
If we're doing the A-team, we're doing classic Batman.
Oh, see, this is now... Okay, we'll end up doing Knight Rider and Street Hawk and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, well,
there's crime in that sometimes. Baywatch Nights. Anyhow,
yes.
At this point, Billy gets his own back a little bit with the references by recalling a Spanish show that he watched with his abuela, which Madeline has not heard of.
Indeed. She then asks him about the Thanksgiving request, and he suggests that it's a custody situation as he walks her through to the main office area and points out the eating options as well as the crying patio, which she hopes she won't ever need.
She asks who it is that Olympia is divorcing.
And finds out that it is Julian.
There's some backstory.
Yes, and makes it clear that she has no intention of getting involved, and then asks to be brought up to date on the case.
This is the first of many occasions where Billy is used for exposition.
Yeah, I think you need these characters. And again, if we look at the original Matlock, it's interesting because in that show, obviously Matlock was the high-flying defence lawyer who employed assistants. Okay. The first time it was his daughter, and he went through several, but he also employed private investigators to do a lot of the groundwork. And it's a bit of a reversal here where we see that Matlock and the juniors are doing the road work for the lawyers themselves. Anyway,
Billy tells Madeline that Raymond Harris spent 26 years in jail as a serial murderer and rapist before DNA evidence cleared him and he was released. That is quite impressive for the American legal system. Quite often it doesn't always help you.
No, not only that, but the cops back then, I'm not sure if it's just back then, were definitely dirty, but a smoking gun is needed for this big $20 million payout.
Yeah, they're not going to admit this corruption, so they're not willing to settle at a higher level. And Madeline asks why it is Billy's sure, or the team are sure, that this smoking gun exists.
Yeah, it's quite a convoluted tip-off. Which,
a guy who knows a guy who's got an uncle who was an ex-cop.
Yeah, well, it ends up with a prostitute escaping a near-identical attack while Harris was in custody. But the cops have lost the report that she made at the time. Not only that, but they don't even know if she's still alive, never mind if the supposed sketch that she had created is still in existence.
No, I think the sketch is of her. We come to this later
right.
on.
No, yes, you're right. You are right. Yeah.
That's how they're going to identify her.
Yes.
Madeline immediately picks up on how tenuous this all is, and you can see in her face that she's not exactly convinced that it's going to be a winner.
And before they enter the conference room, she asks if there is anything else she needs to know to get on Olympia's good side, and is told...
There's one big important thing that you must remember.
What's that?
Do not give your opinion. Olympia does not like other lawyers giving an opinion in these meetings to the client. That is up to her to do.
They walk in and find Sarah sitting across from Raymond and his daughter Jordan, who is understandably wary and angry about how her father has been treated.
Yes, she asks Madeline to state on tape or to her recording device anyway, her name, her affiliation, if any, with the police department and or Raymond's case.
Yeah, she explains that she needs this for her own records, as in the past, obviously lies have been told and myths.
Evidence has been lost, yes.
She understands, but has to apologise when she empathises by placing her hand on Jordan's, who was clearly not expecting such a tactile response.
She then confirms that she has no affiliation with the police or the case and never has.
Olympia enters, and from the look in her face, they know something is wrong, and indeed it is.
Yes, the final settlement offer has come in and it is not higher than the previous offer of $2 million.
It's considerably lower.
It's about 90% lower, nearly.
$241,000.
$241,280. She, Olympia that is, assumes there must be a reason, but she doesn't know what it is.
No, I mean, Raymond and Jordan are obviously outraged.
They're furious. Something has changed, but Olympia can't help them. She doesn't have enough information at this stage to explain it.
And the trial, as we know, starts the next day. She's worried due to his prior convictions and his original admission of guilt, even though he insists it was under duress. And she despondently tells him that they've run out of time. So I think she's starting to give up and think they have to settle.
She knows, on the one hand, the firm wants her not to go to trial. She also knows that this offer that's coming is so much lower. There must be a reason for it. She doesn't want to get surprised in court. And so she's almost suggesting that they accept this offer even though it's lower.
In response to this, Jordan placed her a recording of an earlier meeting where Olympia confidently asked them to trust her in getting Harris justice.
Yes. Olympia then manipulates the situation slightly.
Yeah, after an awkward pause, she glances at Maddie and Jordan asks her what she thinks. And what do we see? We see firstly, I think, Billy and...
We see Billy and Sarah shaking their heads. It's like, don't give your opinion. And Olympia saying, well, if you've got an opinion, by all means, give it. Which I think is her way of getting her opinion out without having to say it. So she's not the one that's advising them to go to
she's
trial.
passing the buck, yeah.
She's letting Madeline do it.
Yeah, because what does Madeline say?
She says they should go to trial. The offer's insulting. But she's not even read up on this case. She's had Billy give her 5 minutes of background. She's in no position to make a legal advice or give an offer or suggestion.
Yeah, obviously that is accurate, but on the facts that we do, she does know there was a $2 million offer, and she knows just as much about what's changed as the rest of them. So
I mean, it's leaning close to a Sam Beckett style, the truth will win situation. It's like sometimes the truth doesn't win.
Yeah. In any case, Jordan agrees and challenges Olympia to stand by her earlier promise. Where do we cut to next?
To the senior partner's office. He's interrogating Olympia to a certain extent.
Yes, a worried Madeline with Sarah and Billy watch as Olympia defends her decision to the boss.
You think Olympia's blaming me for going to trial?
Probably 100% yes. I mean, I would.
You're saying Miss Matlock convinced him and one-upped you?
She didn't one-up me. Now I'm a step closer to firing her for cause. And frankly, I didn't want to convince Raymond to settle.
Unacceptable. The firm needs you back on cases that actually make money.
And I billed more than any other junior partner for 3 straight years.
Hard to remember when you've been hunting goose eggs for 6 months.
Because I'm trying to establish a whole new revenue stream with no support. I fought off 3 separate attempts to have the venue changed by myself, which means the whole jury pool knows that there has been extensive police corruption, and the whole jury pool knows that because I've kept the story in the paper, which is why the city was settling.
Was being the operative word.
Exactly. And without a private investigator, or at the very least, a jury consultant, I have no idea what changed.
Well, the firm isn't going to pump money into a pro bono case.
Well, ideally, this isn't pro bono. It's a test case. Olympia got burned out after defending Big Pharma.
Oh, big pharma, big money. That's where I want to be. So what do you mean this is a test case?
Well, if Freeman gets a number higher than the national average, then the firm takes a cut. So Olympia's argument to him is that she can get a much higher number. An argument to the firm is that social justice can mean real money. So you can do good and do well. That's the noble version anyway.
What's the non-noble version?
She's figuring out yet another way to monetize misfortune because she's a freaking genius.
You're coming up for senior partnership. I don't have to remind you what's at stake.
Then why are you?
Because I'm still your father-in-law.
The divorce is almost finalized.
You think I give a rat's ass? Father-in-law is a lifetime position.
I know what's at stake. I just want this to work.
I know you do. But if it doesn't, you're back on corporate litigation. Got it?
Okay, so we find out there that Senior is the father of Julian.
Yes, so maybe his name's also Julian?
Yeah. and
Julian Senior, maybe?
he should be called Junior then.
You would think.
But maybe he doesn't want to. It's not very professional.
Well, yeah. And then Senior's a weird name to go by if that's coming from your child. I don't know.
Anyway, back in Olympia's office.
We should really pick out that quote from Madeline about pharma in the middle of that.
Yes.
So she, hearing that Olympia was burned, this doesn't make sense to me actually.
Okay.
So Billy talks about Olympia being burned out defending Big Pharma. There's no consequence. Why burned out? So she's doing a pro bono case that she has to work on with no resources, and I'm not entirely sure that.
Maybe it just means burned out in terms of the pressure applied from
there's pressure in this as well, though.
Different type of pressure, isn't it?
Is it? Anyway,
Yeah.
Madeline responds to that. She says, "Ooh, Big Pharma, big money. That's where I want to be," and it doesn't really fit with the way she acts. This kind of it's similar to what we said earlier on. But she comes out with these things every now and then, and that because she's got this sort of folksy way about her, you don't really, or the people around her don't really pick up on the fact she said something quite so.
That's what she's saying. I can say things. People just see what they want to see.
Yeah, they see me as an old
she's
lady.
saying, I'm giving you all the clues here, but you won't recognise it because I am just the old lady.
Which proves my point, essentially, yeah.
So in Olympia's office, there is now a lot of pressure on her and her team, and the big question is whether they call Harris to the stand or not.
But they don't have a jury consultant to tell them whether it's a good idea.
That is a very American thing, and I really, having watched all the movies and real true crime over the years, this concept of being able to select a jury, it doesn't sit well with me, and I'm glad it doesn't happen here. Here it's just randomly you're balloted, it's pulled out the voting register or whatever.
Yep. And random selection.
A random selection, yes. Having to be able to manipulate. Because again, that comes down to if you've got better lawyers with these jury consultants, etc.
To be fair, though, we live in a country where there is like a 90+% group of people who dominate the diaspora, as it were, like the cultural mix.
Yeah.
Whereas somewhere like America, where you've got more antagonism, more groups, maybe it's difficult to get a representative group without this.
Yes, but again, that I'm not sure I agree with the thinking behind that, because what you're therefore saying is that you have to be the same as the person that you're looking to convict to give. What you're saying there is, why should you need to be of the same background or the same ethnicity as someone? You're basically saying you don't trust the jury to be impartial, and what you are saying there.
It's not really me that's saying it. The episode says it.
But you're saying, but in this country, I'm not saying that the jury system is correct, but what we are saying is we trust the people of the jury to be able to put aside any biases depending on their own demographics and be honest. But what you're saying is over there they need to
balance the biases.
They need to balance it out somehow. If it's a white or a black victim or defendant, then someone of other race could not be trusted to be honest, and it's quite listen, it may be accurate, but it's quite a damning and disappointing attitude that you have to take.
The episode makes that point explicitly later on when it talks about the people that Madeline relates to and the people that Olympia relates to.
Which is a good, yes. But relating doesn't mean to say I can relate to certain people. Obviously,
but that's the point. So what they're saying is your sympathies are with the people you relate to. That is your instinctive position. And that's why that has to be balanced on the jury, if it can be, so that then they get past that point and start talking about the actual evidence.
Yeah, maybe. I'm
not saying it's necessary in all cases.
Okay, all I'm saying is, would you like it here? Would you like this situation here?
Where you got to pick a jury?
Yeah.
Just make lawyers more
talks.
expensive, isn't it?
Yeah, but I would just say if you can afford the better lawyers and the jury consultants, you would have a better. So the richer people would have a better chance of.
Yeah. But no, I mean, and the fact that it's not relevant here, it's a different part of the world. Things work differently.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, as you say, they need a jury consultant to review his testimony, but they don't have the funds. So, what does Madeline suggest?
She says to do it like she does ketchup.
Off-brand or as a freebie.
She takes sachets whenever she can get them. And we saw this earlier on with the sugar. And
she talks about, how she does this because her circumstances have changed. And what she does do throughout the episode is she drops in these little hints and clues that she needs money. She's financially vulnerable. Things have she's obviously successful before, but
I think there's an implication that her husband's either dead or left her and then died.
Yeah, he was a scoundrel. Yeah, I think we discussed that later.
Lost all her money.
So she's always planting these little seeds here. Anyway, so what's her plan here?
The idea is that they find people within the company who match the actual jury's demographics. So presumably this jury's already been selected. It must have been, otherwise where are they picking the people from?
However, they are interrupted by Elijah, who is graciously offering his services to help her with the case.
There appears to be something going on here.
And after assuming that he was there to gloat, she apologises by putting her hand on his in an action that is noted by Maddie. So Olympia uses her idea and asks him to find this mixed demographic from within, people who are already on the payroll.
She then expands her grouping to you three.
Yes, I like that.
And sends the others to find Charlene, who has this sketch. Why are they doing this the day before trial? Why is she not sending them out to her?
Well, it's a new lead. No, she said this was a new lead, so obviously it's only came up.
Okay.
Yes. Who is Charlene? How does she describe herself?
Time for some more exposition from Billy, who gives the background on Charlene. She's an old hoe who refuses to be addressed by any other designation.
Yes. And she apparently has a sketch of the prostitute who survived the attack.
Yeah. So, we quick cut to her apartment where Sarah refers to Madeline as MacGyver.
Yes. Yeah, she's complaining that she didn't get shushed when she was using this ketchup monologue, but Billy points out that it was actually useful before warning Madeline that Charlene is a nutter, but does apparently remember the victim that they're looking for, except with no real solid information like having a name or a description or anything.
Yeah, when they knock on the door, Charlene's initially cautious about Madeline, but Madeline uses her people skills to win her over almost immediately.
Yeah, she's got this innate ability to empathise that the younger, more cynical pair lack, and immediately ingratiates herself by complimenting her sort of hippie-style home.
Yes, including some erotic art.
Yes. Yeah, she then makes her feel more at ease by showing that she's not offended by her painting of a clitoris or a discussion of its location on a woman of her age.
Indeed, but she is offended by her husband's inability to find it for 38 years.
Yeah, she talks about the unsatisfactory navigation skills of this person, but in fairness, she never mentioned it to him in all that time. She also mentions that to balance it out, he never mentioned sleeping with other people or his gambling problem that left her in debt. So this
yes.
Yeah.
Charlene takes an immediate liking to Madeline and brings out this sketch, which turns out to be an abstract painting.
The younger two think this is useless, but Maddie understands what it represents.
She can decode it.
Yeah, and sees that the orange up top is hair colour and that the chaos in the painting represents drug issues.
Billy concedes that they haven't at any stage looked into people with narcotics charges around the time in question.
Madeline then tries a different approach and asks her if there was a drug dealer that the other hoes favoured.
We then fast forward to Olympia's office. It's late, I think. We're meant to get the impression they're working anti-social hours, which probably explains all the office romances.
Yeah. Again, just talking back to that, but this is typical of people with good people skills. They're able to communicate.
Yeah.
And it's a skill. It's not just copying how they do it, because it can be very patronising. And obviously the sort of egregious examples are when middle-aged white men try and talk black.
Ah.
And that's the big sort of cringe.
I've seen, it's probably hopefully passed as a trend now, but about 6 months ago, there were a lot of businesses were leaning into this and having old white people using Gen, whatever they are now, alpha language.
Yeah, so you just have to be very, it's a skill. It's not copying people. It's knowing what you can do and when to do it and how to apply it. And it's being authentic with it to an extent.
Yeah. So we find Madeline here reporting back to Olympia about what they were able to discover, but Olympia tells her that the fake jury that they set up were useful, but unfortunately led to the conclusion that Raymond cannot testify.
However, Madeline, she's quite satisfied with her day's work and reveals she has better news, and that they have a dealer named Big Vinny who supplied all the prostitutes back in the day, and they have located him to a prison.
His real name is Vincent, his real name is Vincent to look at, and they're going to follow up in the morning.
Yeah, and she hopes her breakthrough will make it easier. She has to tell Olympia that she doesn't want to get involved in her custody battle with Julian. She tells her no problem, but smiles and reminds her that that's how she can get on her good side.
Well, I've said she manipulatively smiles.
Yeah, I mean, that isn't... I mean, it's wrong, isn't it? Someone doing this, like, manipulating in the workplace. It's played for sort of laughs here, but...
Is it played for laughs? I think we're getting to... This is meant to be an insight into Olympia. She doesn't mind using people to achieve what she wants.
Well, that's how I read it, yes. It's not a...
And she doesn't even want what she's asked. We'll find out later. She doesn't actually want what she's asked Madeline to do. She knows what's going to happen when she tries.
Yeah.
Anyway, we get one of these other cuts because Madeline obviously reacts to that manipulation and approaches Julian to discuss the matter. And this is what I've said. I really like these fast skips, and it conveys the pace of the action and the lifestyle.
Yeah, she bumps into him on the stairs and firstly asks about the Peabody case and is happy to hear that they settled for the $23 million. However, he nearly spits out his coffee when she remarks that she would not be celebrating with a scotch, as he suggested or offered, unless she was getting laid.
Which she says is presumably not on the table.
Jokingly asks her where she came from, and she uses this invitation to give more backstory about originating in Florida and ending up north via Georgia. Georgia was where the original Matlock was set.
I wonder if we should be collecting these breadcrumbs and going through them at the end.
Yeah, it's too late now.
No, definitely. Maybe next week.
And she mentioned that she was dragged up there by her ex, but claims not to be bitter and broke. So she really does paint this picture
She's
very
talking
well.
quite rapidly as well. She goes on to talk about pharmaceuticals and him working in that field, and that's where she needs to be before she brings the subject around to the children.
Yeah, she asks about his kids and finds out that he has twins aged 8. And what does she discloses something about her personal life.
She says that 8's a great age, and her grandson, who she raises, is 12 and he hates her.
And then asks if he has plans for Thanksgiving.
So we get a sort of a cute segue here where Madeline says Olympia would love, and we cut to Olympia's office where she's presenting Julian's counter-proposal to Olympia.
Yes, he has requested that she leaves their marital apartment within the month and leaves the deeds to him.
It's not really a fair swap for one weekend.
No, give him the whole apartment.
Give me a house and you can have the kids these 2 days.
Yeah.
Anyway, he then walks in to ask whether
that's her presenting his offer to Olympia. Yeah, so he walks in
and asks if they can agree this, which leads to a bit of bickering.
She is politely asked to leave, and they continue to go at each other for personal and work-related actions, but they're interrupted by Elijah with more concerning news.
Yeah, they've been at it so long. Madeline's gone out the front door, around the side, and back in here with Elijah, Sarah and Billy, and a press report.
So what's going on?
Police corruption in the late 90s, not as widespread as previously thought, says the newspaper.
This is a blow to Olympia, and she tells Julian that he can leave, but he wants to stay and help, and I think he wants to do his bit for the team and for the business. And I think he says that the policemen's union must have been aware of this, or maybe it's her, which is why their offer of $2 million was so drastically reduced.
I think it was, in their opinion, a deliberate ploy.
Wait till the last minute, then
push this out and reduce the offer so you can't settle, then push this information out that swings the case in your favour. I'm not sure that this would swing the case in their favour. The jury aren't going to say, well, if the newspaper says there was no police corruption in the 90s.
I'm not sure, because unless you can prove that there was, it's not up to... There's no other
This doesn't make any difference, the fact that the newspaper saying there wasn't much corruption. If they can't prove corruption either way, it doesn't matter whether there's a general feeling that there was corruption.
I don't know. I think that's what it comes down to. Like, can you sway their opinion? And it's on a knife edge, obviously, they feel.
Well, why would they take this report over?
There's no other report, is there?
Well, I just don't think it would be that persuasive. Maybe it would. Maybe people are easily swayed.
Yeah.
Olympia notes that she really hopes Madeline and Billy and Sarah have a plan to get the drug dealer to talk to them, and is assured that they absolutely do.
But they don't.
No. But they've got all night to come up with one.
The next morning, as they enter the prison, Sarah reminds Madeline about Vinny's mother's name and some background on her that she has discovered.
It's quite clear that they've got a plan, and this is them just revising the plan they've been discussing
They're not
this
just
morning.
working out as they walk in. Obviously, there could have been an hour's drive to the prison and they've been going through this.
Madeline's very impressed with what Sarah's come up with.
Yes. And they put this to use when Vinny enters the visiting room and immediately claims not to know any of them. Yep. So she again uses her reading of people, her people skills, and what does she do?
Well, and along with the information that Sarah's armed her with, she pretends to be a family friend who has lost weight and looks
a friend of our mother, certainly. Yeah.
And yes, and says that these lawyers came looking for his mother and found her, and she's brought them to him to get some information to help them.
So eventually he agrees to sit down and speak. Meanwhile,
well, we kind of get a back and forth here now. So we're going back and forth between this conversation and the court.
Yes, where Olympia she's making it clear that she's not happy with the prejudicial coverage in the press, and then opens her argument to the jury about the horror that Harris endured.
Yes, and it's not presented chronologically as well. So you're, as well as skipping between the court and the prison, you're also in the court skipping between Olympia explaining what's happening to Jordan and us seeing it happen.
Yeah, she mentions...
So it's kind of a three-way...
Yeah, she mentions his trauma and that being the reason that he can't take the stand. But the DA objects, as it's clear that she simply does not want the jury to know about his prior convictions, which she accepts and apologises for, but is happy that this reason was placed in their minds.
It's the standard sort of thing. You say it, once the jury have heard it, they can't forget it.
Yeah. Back at the prison,
Vincent, or Vinny, doesn't remember the woman they're asking about, so he's...
26 years ago. Yeah. If you were a drug dealer and had a lot of prostitutes that you were servicing, I mean, I can't remember people from 26 days ago, never mind 26
hours ago. Yeah. Anyhow, his memory is jogged as Billy lists some cultural touchstones from 1996.
What's the one that finally does it?
Well, it's not the Clinton election or re-election, it's the Macarena.
Yeah, it's a terrible song, wasn't it?
I still can't abide it.
Horrible.
Los Del Rio.
Yeah.
They're still alive. I found that out recently.
Okay. He understandably hated that tune and is able to give them the name of a redhead junkie who disappeared one day.
Yeah, her name is not Carla.
Not Carla from Cheers, which is another show that the two kids don't remember. And after they work through the possible names, Sarah hits on it.
Carlin? Is that a name?
No, it's not. But it's a surname. George Carlin is the only Carlin I know.
Yeah. Carolyn, maybe.
Yeah. That was about the sixth suggestion or the fifth.
Yeah, they came really quickly with this non-name.
Maybe it's big in the States, I don't know.
Then we skip immediately again with this method that they're using that I really like, to Billy and Sarah starting their research as they walk out of the jail.
Yes. It's now Madeline's turn to be impressed, as the other two are able to use modern technology to quickly narrow down who this Carolyn could be.
She's still struggling to keep up with him, though.
Yes. Back in the courtroom.
A detective, Ferguson, is under examination by Olympia. He is the man who got the initial confession from Raymond.
And is coming across as quite a cocky and unhappy individual. I think he doesn't feel that he should be there. This is an indignity to be questioned about this.
Yeah, disrespectful almost.
Yeah, he's very defensive. He does, however, have to agree that Harris told him that he was innocent over 100 times before finally admitting guilt after 11 hours of questioning.
But withdrawing that confession almost immediately.
Yeah, well, 10 minutes later. He says 10 minutes, but Olympia corrects him. It was only 8 minutes. And Ferguson also is forced to accept that he did not investigate further, and the only thing to link him to the crime was one intoxicated eyewitness.
That's not the only thing, though,
who saw him in the area. No, it's not. What else is there?
He fit the very specific description of the assailant.
But this backfires, because when it's read out, this extremely vague description, it also describes one of the black jurors.
Yes, who doesn't look very pleased.
No. Following her, the DA questions his witness, and Ferguson claims that rather than police corruption, it was simply a case of that the obvious answer is usually the correct one, and asks if he saw the papers that day. However, just then, Elijah comes in with some good news.
Yes, the team have found the prostitute.
Carolyn. However, there is a problem. We're at her home now.
We now go to her home and we find that she has moved on and started a new life with a family who know nothing about her past.
Yes, it's a very respectable looking lifestyle in the suburbs with, the whole 2.4 children and the cars in the driveway, etc. Like a street from E.T.
I feel like there was a Columbo or something, maybe some other show where this storyline came up. Someone who used to be a prostitute and doesn't want their new family to know about it. It might not be Columbo, but it's something that I've seen in the last 20 years.
Several times for sure. So she admits to the three of them what happened and explains that because of her lifestyle, she knew or thought that no one would believe her anyway, and is just thankful that she escaped that life and had the chance to rebuild.
We see Madeline emotionally react to this story.
Well, she reacts to the fact that, or when she tells her that she got sober. So there's clearly something there for her. And as you say, as her family have no knowledge of her past, she is not willing to testify and ruin her new life. Now, this is understandable.
Absolutely.
This is one of these, maybe we can talk about it later, maybe you've got a question about this, but what would you do? Do you want to put your... I mean, this could wreck her tile. Her husband might go, what? You were... I'm sorry, and that's it. We're finished. Her kids find out about it. Her kids, family, friend, everyone finds out about it. Her life is quite possibly ruined.
Potentially.
For a stranger.
Yeah, is it worth it?
It's a good question.
He's already out of prison.
You wouldn't like to be in that situation. Yeah, but you want justice, don't you?
Well, he's got justice. He's out of prison.
Maybe I would say, I'll do it. How much are you getting?
What share am I getting?
20 million, you say? Anyway, even in a closed court, she isn't up for it.
No. And Sarah threatens her at this point. She says she could be subpoenaed.
Which, shocks and frightens her. But Maddie immediately contradicts her colleague and takes Carolyn by the hand as she admits they can't actually do this and they would need her cooperation.
She tells her that they cannot have it.
And so they have to accept this and leave. Obviously, this infuriates Olympia, who, when told, points out the underlying consequences and bias that she may not have considered.
I'm sorry. I couldn't lie to her.
Well, you also didn't have to give her the roadmap on how to get out of testifying.
You're right. And it's been a while, so maybe...
Maybe what? Maybe you shouldn't have come back to work? I agree. Which is why I didn't want you hired from the moment you brought up discriminatory practices and ageism, which is an offensive manipulation of a law that was established primarily to keep workers from getting pushed out prematurely, whereas you getting blocked was likely because it has been 30 years since you've practiced law, which, best case scenario, you just prove to be a recipe for disaster. Worst case scenario, you gave that woman a way out because you felt sorry for her, because you saw her living in suburbia, and she reminded you of yourself. But you know what? Those people who remind you of yourself have generations of advantage over the people who remind me of myself. Do you know who I identify with? Raymond and his family, who you just screwed over.
Yeah, you hinted at that earlier on.
Yeah.
I think it's really quite a powerful and pertinent point in the episode. And this is why this type of show is more... It's not just the language. It's not just the descriptions and which make it grittier. I think they're tackling slightly more substantial subject matter, or hinting at it. So it's not quite as cosy. You have to sort of consider reality a little bit more.
That's it. And I think it's quite interesting with Olympia's character. So up until now, she's not been a particularly likeable character. She's been manipulative. She's been quite arrogant. She's sneering, and she doesn't get on well with her ex-husband, and she tries to get Maddie to do certain things. But here you see that she does have this sort of, and you know, you might have had the suspicion earlier that her social justice instincts weren't entirely altruistic, but you do quite clearly in this scene get the feeling that she does care about this guy and this family, and she does relate to them and connect with them, despite the fact that she's quite affluent and she lives a life of luxury, presumably. She still feels the struggle here and recognises the injustice.
A responsibility in some sense. So, an upset Maddie is making use of the crying patio. She's on the phone to her grandson Alfie, telling him that she won't be home for dinner.
She has to abruptly hang up, though.
Yeah, she's joined by Sarah, who isn't one for pep talks, but is going to support whatever Billy has to say.
I quite like the relationship between Sarah and Madeline developing during this episode, because she's quite harsh on her at the start, and it takes her a little bit of time to warm up to her, but by this point she likes her. Yeah,
and I think we can see, or it's going to be interesting to watch it develop over the next coming weeks and episodes. I think there's definitely room for a bit of fun. I think this is obviously, these two are sometimes the sort of comic relief.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Billy's got salty snacks for her, but Madeline's feeling a bit sorry for herself. She says she can't let any more people down, which doesn't make 100% sense at this point to us, but we will find out later on what she's referring to. And Billy tells her to get over herself.
Yeah, but see, it's not just that as well. She earlier on had claimed it was all about the money. So she's contradicting her character here.
Exactly. So this is what I was kind of trying to hint at a wee bit earlier on.
Yeah.
And like I say, Billy tells her to get over herself, but is then sympathetic to her. However, Sarah is not the one for emotional explanations. She's more direct.
No, it's good because he says to her, we've accomplished more with her than they previously had all year, and she thinks that may be slightly hyperbolic, but does admit that she has been helpful, and so she should pull up her granny pants and fix her mistake.
Whatever granny panties you wear.
The next day, Jordan is on the witness stand describing the traumatic effect that the wrongful conviction of her father had on her life, including never having had a relationship due to trust issues.
Personal, and also losing her relationship with her father, which she hasn't been able to rebuild since his release.
Meanwhile, Maddie has returned to Carolyn's home, alone this time, and again uses her empathy to open up to her.
I think what she says here is true. I mean,
yes,
you can understand it as a manipulation, but I don't think so. I think Madeline is genuinely...
No, it's
this explains...
Yeah, no, it's 100% true.
No. This explains her reaction the day before.
She tells her that she lost a daughter to drugs, and while normally she manages to keep her emotions in check, she lost it yesterday when listening to Carolyn's story about getting clean and turning her life around.
She's able to persuade Carolyn to tell her what she knows.
Yeah, well, she admits that she too would do everything and anything for her daughter, but notes how the Harris family has also been destroyed.
Carolyn explains to her that she was helped at the time of the attack.
Yeah, this is after Madeline promises that she will not betray her. Yeah. So she's putting her sort of her word on.
She's asking her to trust her, and she's able to persuade her.
Which is a reflection of what Olympia had said to Harris or Jordan
in the first meeting that she had on tape. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So tell me what is this new information?
So after she was attacked, Carolyn was assisted by a man, a restaurateur.
A Greek restaurant owner, who saw the attack on her and walked her to the station. And so, outside and now a bit pepped up, Madeline phones the restaurant.
I'm going to say the same thing I keep saying. The writing is really clever here, the way you get to the point of the scene and then it's on to the next one.
Yeah.
So there's no... Okay, we've heard what she has to say, but we need to end this conversation in a tidy way.
Yeah.
It's like, nope, you don't need the rest of that. That's fine.
I've read quite a few books from editors of movies, and I've watched sort of YouTube videos on the art of it, and it's crazy how even just cutting them a little bit short or leaving them to run a little bit longer can totally change the pacing of the movie, the intent or what the scene means. No, I'm not talking about moving things about, just basic things like that can really speed up and change how a movie feels.
And I think what it allows them to do is get a lot into their 45 minutes, because we've recently finished doing the Quantum Leap podcast, which was about the same length, but far less happens in an episode of Quantum Leap than happens in this episode.
I noticed that immediately. I mean, obviously it's the first episode, so there generally is more to talk about, but I've got a lot more notes. It just feels fuller.
Yeah, I mean, we're up to about an hour here, and
let's crack on.
Well, there's that. We're not even at the climax.
No. Don't climax. Let's not go there again.
Oh dear. Anyway, we see Madeline on the phone calling this restaurant, asking if Papa Cristo still owns it.
Back in court, the DA brings up Harris's previous prison time, which outrages Olympia, who objects as they approach the bench. The judge sustains this, but warns them both to stop with this underhand strategy or tactics, or else there'll be a mistrial. And just then, Madeline enters with a smile and gives Olympia the thumbs up.
We now return to the bench with just Madeline, Olympia, and this guy, Tom Smith, from the city.
The court has been cleared.
Yeah. They're discussing theoretical... This is not how it would happen, but anyway. They're discussing the theoretical evidence of a new witness, and Madeline tricks Smith into admitting that if there was a recorded telephone call, he would be happy for it to be admitted.
Yes, I quite like the way she set this trap. Yeah, because the way she says it is that there was this witness, this Greek owner, and he was on the phone to a friend at the time.
Yes.
And the DA says, well, his friend was recording the call, and she says, no, he wasn't, but just in theory.
If he were.
And he said, well, yeah, okay, in theory if he was. It transpires that the Greek owner was not on the call to a friend.
No, he was on 911, and it was recorded, but the police seem to have somehow lost this recording.
Fortunately, the recording was backed up on the state server.
And with the DA's agreement, she's sure the judge will admit it into evidence.
And so later, and to the dismay of the DA, the audio is played, which supports Carolyn's testimony and also describes the similarities with the killer's modus operandi.
That could be a coincidence, but the key point here is Ferguson, the detective, now back on the stand, admits that this was covered up to avoid jeopardising the prosecution.
I'm not sure he would so readily agree to
he
that.
certainly would not.
Yeah,
they're just saying it's an unrelated incident. There was different materials involved. It was a different part of town. It's not relevant.
Yeah, it's went missing. Yeah. I mean, evidence does go missing
and yet
all the time.
In the call recording, I wasn't aware of it personally, but these things happen.
In any case, that's not what happens. He says, there's corruption. Everyone, woo, yeah. So, we later return to see that the jury have found Harris... This seems, again, this is one of these sort of American legal quirks, or certainly something that doesn't happen here that I think is... I can't get my head around it.
Yeah.
So the jury come back and find that, yes, there was corruption, so he's due compensation, which is fine. In this country, that what would happen is they come back with their verdict, and then it would be up to the judge or other experts to then, at some later date...
Part of the hearing would be to ascertain the value of the claim.
Yes.
Here. Not so... I mean, in America, yes, to a certain extent, they have this debate, he should get this much because of this and this much because of that. But the jury's not really restrained in what they can award.
No.
Whereas here, there would be more of
guidelines.
It would be based on not just guidelines, but also the evidence that was led.
Yeah. You would know exactly... I think, you would know during the trial what the award would be if found to be proven or not.
More or less.
But so they come back, they find that there has been corruption, and then they, the jury, have decided how much you should get 20 million.
Yeah.
I
mean, I assume in this case that Olympia has asked for 20 million, because this is the figure that she mentioned earlier on. And they've said, yes, you've proved your case, you're getting your 20 million.
Yeah, but even then, they wouldn't come back and say, how much do you get? It's almost as if they've been discussing this. Yeah, well, we think... 18, 20.
I think this is...
I don't want a jury to be involved in that. That is not something they should have anything to do with.
Pretty sure it can get appealed as well. Well, this happened recently in the Trump criminal case.
Yeah, it happens all the time. You see it especially, from America, these crazy numbers that are awarded, and then but you actually
it's not the Trump criminal case, one of the Trump civil cases.
You follow it back up, and you find out, they were awarded $1 billion, but they actually, in the reality, they get $5 million.
There's a famous Grisham novel where big tobacco are found liable for billions.
Yeah.
Yeah, they then appeal it. Yeah, they pay 500 and then go bust.
In any case, there are gasps and sighs and congratulatory hugs while Harris promises Jordan that they will rebuild their relationship.
Is that not what they say in RoboCop?
And so that night, Madeline enters Olympia's office with hope that her good work will have made a positive impression.
I'm sorry for losing sight of the client's best interest. Won't happen again. And I hope you'll support my bid for permanent employment.
Did you give me Thanksgiving weekend?
No. But then again, I'm guessing you didn't want the weekend. Because if you did, you wouldn't have baited your ex-husband into going away. Same way you baited me into giving my opinion on the case early on. Which makes me wonder why you want him out of the city. But maybe I'm overthinking. Maybe it's not that you're dating someone new, someone he'd be unhappy about. That's just where my paranoid mind went.
Your references checked out, and you were useful, so you've been assigned an office. And I look forward to working with you again.
Please turn that off.
No way. I'm going to watch a few episodes, Angela Lansbury.
After we drink, right? You coming, Maddie?
Oh, if only I was 40 years younger, didn't have a surly grandson at home. I'll see you two tomorrow. I gotta catch my bus.
All right, good night.
That little things like that make you smile.
With the Matlock theme.
Yeah.
And the Angela Lansbury reference.
Yes. Again, another show that will no doubt, in fact, we will 100% will be covering it.
I heard a rumour this week that they're making a movie.
Yeah, who is it? Yeah.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Oh, okay. A Colombo connection now.
She was good in Knives Out.
Yeah.
We're then exposed to a major twist.
This was brilliant, and I didn't see it coming.
You didn't?
No.
You thought they maybe not reveal this sort of thing? Or you didn't anticipate anything like this?
Didn't anticipate anything like this for that, because I'm thinking Matlock's Matlock.
Yeah.
A little bit, the language a little bit more fruity, but I didn't see what was coming.
Okay.
That'd be really good.
So she gets off one stop down the line and has a chauffeur waiting in a massive car.
Yes, it's a Kaiser Sose transformation here. So yeah, she walks around the corner where a limo driver opens the door and refers to her as Mrs. Kingston. And then we are reminded of some of the things that she had said earlier about becoming invisible as she slips on a very large, ostentatious wedding ring.
And then we see her return home.
Yes, it pulls up to a mansion while we flash back to her claiming to be broke and bitter, and then is greeted by her not dead but very happy and pleased husband.
This was the one part of the episode I didn't like. I don't think the flashbacks were necessary. I think that's insulting to the viewer. You've just watched it. You've seen her. You remember. You don't need your hand held.
But this is like The Usual Suspects. I think this is a nod to that technique. That's what that
was
does.
a 3-hour movie. This has only been
still
40 minutes.
I don't know. I didn't find that annoying at all.
Okay.
I quite liked it.
I was trying to get to the end of my notes. I was like, I don't need this. I've seen this. Move on. Anyway, yes, her grandson is not surly at all either. He doesn't hate her. He,
No.
in fact, helped this entire setup.
Yes, so firstly, we find out that the husband is not an old scoundrel, but in fact they love each other. The chuckle as she tells him that he's dead.
Yeah, what she said about him,
yeah. She also hates butterscotch, which was quite nice.
Yes, of course. And the grandson set up her LinkedIn page and referred a call from the firm to her husband to give a reference.
Yes, not just that, he's almost sort of brains behind it, or the one who's implementing it or doing the modern stuff.
And he's come up with the Matlock name as well.
Yes, because of the TV show.
And this is where he says it goes with Matty.
Yes, we find out that my Madeline's daughter, she would watch it and say she was studying to become a lawyer like her mother. And it's obvious that she's no longer with them.
Yes,
the way they talk.
Because she's already told Carlin this as well.
Yes. But he's keen to find out when she will get to work on drugs cases, which earlier she admitted she wanted to do. But she tells him that she's got to build up some trust first, and we find out why.
Yes. We go into her sort of den, which she's got all the string.
It's like a serial killer's lair, isn't it?
And it's Jacobson Moore, and it's the three biggies, her three major suspects for hiding a document that could have saved her daughter and other drug users. And it was definitely either Julian, Olympia, or Senior.
I'm not sure how you could narrow that down at this stage.
Yeah, it's challenging, isn't it?
Yes, but also, how could they have saved her daughter?
Well, apparently it's research or not. I mean, I'm not sure drug users are going to be saved by this.
No, they buried the document which would have taken opioids off the market.
But do opioid users get them legally? All of them?
But take them all off the market.
Well, anyway.
I think, not all of them, no, but I mean, if you can save 100, if there's thousands of deaths.
It might have saved her daughter, and she is convinced it would have saved her daughter.
Yeah, because maybe her daughter was getting it not from
maybe
these sort of backstreet places, but prescribed by a
I suppose
doctor.
when you think opioids, it's not just illegal drugs, it's also prescription drugs. In fact, quite often it's prescription drugs.
A lot of the high profile, like Michael Jackson, etc., and even what's his name, Matthew Perry and that, they start, they're being provided to by doctors and what?
Doctors in inverted commas.
Yeah. Dr. Feelgood. Anyway.
Well, that was JFK's.
Motley Crue. So where were we?
Well, we've reached the end of the episode. She wants to put one of them in jail. Yeah,
and I've asked a question here. Is that fair? So the lawyer's job is to represent their clients. Now, Big Pharma, as I say, no one I think thinks that they're great guys. Although I suppose if they come up with a drug that would save your family member, you'd think they were okay.
Yeah, is there a crime being committed here?
No, I think it's an ethical. Well, if they saying buried things. If that depends, yes.
How could it be that lawyer's sole responsibility to reveal a particular thing?
Well, I don't think they're under any obligation, unless there was criminality, to not bring forward a document that would in some way shine a bad light on your client. You're not obliged to do that.
No. I'm hoping they're going to establish what the specific crime is here as we go along.
I mean, I'm going to suggest that Julian and or Olympia certainly won't be the sort of bad guys here. Senior's the obvious one. And see, this is the thing, if at the end of this season, I mean, if it's been a success, and I think it has from what we're reading here, where does season 2 go if she exposes and brings down...
Yeah, she can't keep working there.
Although I suppose if it's only one of them, she can. Yeah, she's a good guy. She brings down, say, Julian and Senior... Oh, not Julian, that's just that. But she brings down Olympia and Senior says, well done, she was I didn't know anything about this.
Well, maybe.
But then...
Then where do you go in season 2? What's the story?
Yeah, so I'm thinking maybe it's not what she thinks.
Well, you'd like to think so. It's not quite as straightforward as it's being presented, but
like I say,
we'll see.
Even that, it does seem to be she's got an understandable but yet wrong personal vendetta. It's like, yeah, they're going after
Well, it's clearly grief-driven.
It's going after the defence lawyer who got a murderer off. That's their job. It's not personal. He's entitled to, or she's entitled to a defence, and if you can't prove the case and... You know, the defence lawyer puts enough doubt in that.
And it doesn't mean they didn't care about the person being killed or...
That's how that's how the system should work. You know, that you've got to prove that they did do it, and if you're not able to do that, even if you know, you still have to prove it.
Yeah.
So you can't yig about killing or bringing down people. Obviously, what I'm hoping is that if they are involved, there is criminality which you can then, or we can then get behind and say, well, yeah, they shouldn't have been doing that.
Because at the moment you're not sure who to root for, or, well, maybe Madeline, obviously.
You're meant to think
intended to.
Yeah.
And she's a liar as well.
Yeah.
So we've kind of covered most of the points I was going to bring up at the end. Were you happy with this twist?
I loved it.
You wouldn't have been happier it just ended without this?
No, I think that without that, you're just getting the sort of, again, like the old-fashioned Matlock format where... you get someone off in the end and everyone's happy. And again, this is the big difference. We've discussed this before and why we couldn't use this show on our new format, because this original Matlock is definitely episodic. This is giving you something else. It's more modern, it's more intricate, and it does give you that. Because a lot of the cases on a week by week basis, they can become very, as I say, very formulaic, very sort of by number. It's always the same, and Matlock always wins, and you know what's going to happen. It's cosy, but it's good. So that's enjoyable, but it's also good to have something a bit more gritty to get your teeth into. It's also why we couldn't cover the Book of Genesis, because that's got a massive arc. Listen, we've not got time for this. It's already an hour and 20 odd minutes here. One other question I wanted to bring was, do you think Olympia was right to go through Madeline for tipping off Carlin about how to avoid? Yeah, I do. I mean, I think you got your ethical, but that's not your job. Your job is not to make those decisions. I'm not sure what features we're going to stick for this podcast. I thought it might be worth recapping the main legal case at the end of each case, because there's lots of side plots and things to cover this. Thanks for letting me know, preparing me for this. Okay. No, I've done it, it's fine. All right, okay, cool. So the main case in this episode is the claim by Raymond Harris against the state of New York for compensation following a period of wrongful incarceration, and after the introduction of a 911 call by his legal team showing a similar crime was committed while he was in prison, and the admission by the police chief that this was covered up to ensure his conviction, he was awarded $20 million by the jury. Okay. Trivia? Sure, it's been a while since I've done this. You were trivia head at the Quantum Leap project. And Poker Face. First broadcast. Now, were they all sort of dumped in the same day, or? I don't know. Well, I've got the 22nd of September 2024, but I'm not sure if that's actually the UK or the American. I think it's American, because it's only just started. It's not even finished running in the UK. Okay. Directed by Kat Coiro, I think that's how you pronounce it. She was born on the 17th of September 1979 in New York. Known for the Spiderwick Chronicles, She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, Dead to Me, Always Sunny in Philadelphia, The Mick, and Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So what I'll do here is, we can't pick out all the big names in episode 1. Save some. I'll give it Dean Hargrove a quick mention here. He is credited as the writer, but that's because he created the original show. Okay. I think he's well retired now. He's a TV legend. He produced 19 episodes of Columbo and 112 episodes of Matlock. Many, many other shows, including Perry Mason, Diagnosis Murder, Father Dowling Investigates in McCloud, and I'm sure we will cover a few of those. Jenny Snyder-Urman, was the actual writer for this episode. She was born on the 6th of June 1975, also in New York, and has previously written for Charmed, Good Sam, Jane the Virgin, 90210 and Gilmore Girls. We'll tackle a couple of the regulars this week.
Couple of regulars, okay, on you go.
Olympia Lawrence was played by Sky P. Marshall. She was born, this is worrying me, they're all younger than you, on October 21st, 1981 in Chicago. She is known for Coup, Good Sam, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, Black Lightning, and Love Handles. She was nominated for the Critics' Choice Award in 2025, so it must be next year's for Matlock.
Okay. I'm sure it'll be good for the rest of the season then.
And she is married to fellow actor Edwin Hodge. Billy was played by David Del Rio. 1987, September 29th, in Miami. That's where he was born. He's known for Maggie, The Baker and the Beauty, as well as The Troop.
Never heard of any of those shows.
A big guest star, there's two sort of big name guest stars this week. Charlene, I noticed her straight away, but I must admit, I said to myself, can that be, I'm not sure, and I checked it up. Yes, Charlene, who was a fantastic character, was played by Colleen Camp.
That's a familiar sounding name.
Yeah, she's been in so much. Born in 1953 on the 7th of June in San Francisco. Probably most famous for, well, certainly for me, she played the very lovely maid in Clue. Also in Sliver, Die Hard with a Vengeance, Daddy Issues, which was directed by Kat Kaoro.
Okay.
Roseanne, Last Action Hero, Wayne's World. She played Mrs. Vanderhoff in Wayne's World.
Right.
Murder, She Wrote. Police Academy 2 and 4. I think that might be the first time I saw her, actually. I think she played Tackleberry's girlfriend in that. Daryl, if you remember that, the boy android robot.
Yeah, remember that.
Dallas, Happy Days, Battle for the Planet of the Apes. I think that was her first feature movie. She was previously married to John Goldwyn of the MGM, the Goldwyn dynasty.
Oh, that's a legacy.
And apparently she has played more police officers than any other actress.
Interesting.
Unfortunately, she's had 2 award nominations.
The Razzies.
Both of them for Worst Actress in Sliver and The Seduction. Carolyn, now you were quite happy, you were quite pleased to see her. I'd never heard of her before.
Nicole de Boer, I was very much enamoured of her back in the 90s.
Yes, as you say, Nicole de Boer, 20th of December 1970 in Toronto. She was born, known for Star Trek Deep Space Nine. More recently, Private Eyes, The Dead Zone, Family of Cops 3. I like the Family of Cops series. That's, what you call him, Charles Bronson. Catwalk, Beyond Reality, and The Kids in the Hall. I was a big fan of that back in the day. She is an ex of the actor John Castner. Raymond Harris was played by Rutherford Gray. You might have seen him in Max Payne, Exit Wounds, The Madness, Murdoch Mysteries, Degrassi, Next Gen, The Kennedys, or Slings and Arrows. I think he is quite the character actor himself. Jordan was played by Natasha Mumba. No relation to Samantha.
Samantha, no, okay.
She was terrible. Anyway, born in Zambia, she has also appeared in The Last of Us, Beacon 23, The Handmaid's Tale, and Good Sam.
Last of Us is very good.
I've not watched it, is it?
Yeah, again, it's got an arc. We have to watch the whole thing.
Sure. And finally, we've got the character who is credited as Vintage Tom Cruise, which I think is the obnoxious yuppie at the start in the coffee shop.
Okay, why is he called Vintage Tom Cruise?
I think because maybe like a Jerry Maguire type, where he's deal making. Played by Marcus Rosner. He was born in 1989 in British Columbia on the 10th of August. He's done tons of Hallmark TV romantic
my
type.
mother's favourite versions.
Yeah, he's always sort of the handsome, hunky type guy, as well as Ride, Arrow, Unreal, When Calls the Heart, and he's married to actor Alison Croker. So a little bit of trivia. Do you have anything, no? Yeah?
Just that Nicole de Boer is great.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, the show, this episode references obviously Matlock, The A-Team, MacGyver, Murder, She Wrote, Cheers, and Perry Mason.
Is that all?
I think so.
Okay.
455th Avenue was actually the Price Waterhouse Cooper building in Toronto. So actually it would have involved lots of these type of characters.
Yeah, it's all filmed in Canada, isn't it?
Yeah. And behind the scenes, the composer, Zach Robinson, won an Emmy for Weird, the Al Yankovic story. Also 60 episodes of Cobra Kai, Twisted Metal, Die Hard, lots of other things. But I thought the score was very good.
Yeah.
That's me.
Okay. Next week.
What do we have?
Madeline has to help defend a teen accused of murder while Olympia and Julian's co-parenting issues continue in Rome in a Day.
Well, until then,
Cheerio.
bye-bye.